Thank you everyone for the wait. I think you can see obviously on the screen the subject of today's conversation, beyond the traps, building the winning e-grocery model. So we will be discussing various e-grocery models. Guys, in meanwhile, everyone who is participating, who is watching there, you can send your questions, or if there is anything specific you want us to cover, feel free to post it in the chat window.
Yeah, and it also will be great if you write where you're from, and so we can know what about what countries we can talk and ask our participants to see what is their special opinion on the places or markets we will talk about later.
Okay, I can see that we have someone there, I guess from Jumia, so I assume that's some from Africa joining. That's exciting. David, have you ever been to Africa yet?
Not yet, but I have a friend who is actually 75 years old. It's quite interesting story about how we met, and he's working in Durban and doing some agricultural business, and he always called to come to the South Africa, and I'm really waiting for the day when I can put up with a 25 hours flight to the Africa and enjoy this place.
Yeah, Africa is in fact very diverse. I totally loved my trips to South Africa, and the online, the e-commerce altogether in Africa is a very vibrant scene, and online grocery specifically is buzzing there as well. Of course, South Africa is probably leading the way with some of the national players. In fact, in Cape Town alone, crossing the mark of 30,000 of daily orders, and one of their services, which is that's the 60 service, which is one of the leading online grocery delivery services in Africa. So allegedly, those guys are now altogether around the country are doing over 60,000 of daily orders, and Cape Town alone is over 30,000 of daily orders, which seems to be a massive number. Many people don't know how big the online grocery is in South Africa specifically. Obviously, followed by the Ivory Coast, where Yango is rather strong, and there is a few other countries, and really keen to hear, to see in the comment section how is the online grocery doing in your respective country. I can see that we have as well people from India, from Brazil. Thank you very much everyone for joining. I guess we are now across more than 12 time zones covering, which is exciting.
Yep. So what you're thinking, Evgeny, maybe we can start?
Yeah, let's begin. So I will start the presentation now. And guys, again, very welcome to post any questions in the comment. We want to make it as useful as possible, as interesting as possible. Today we will be discussing various online grocery models. I'll give a brief introduction about who we are. We are the technological company which is active in over 30 countries. We have over 24,000 people, predominantly those are the tech guys, unlike us, who are more in the operations side and the client-facing side. So most of our teams are very technical. We're technical as well, but not developers. And we have the ride-hailing, the search engines, the cloud platforms, and the unit which you have the pleasure of meeting today is the online grocery tech unit. We power over 500, I think over 600 stores now, dark stores and gray stores. We are empowering over 250 1,000 daily deliveries all around the world, and through our technology, there is over $1.3 billion of revenue going through. So I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Evgeny. I'm Chief Operating Officer of our Enterprise Solutions Unit, which is actually providing this technology to the grocery retailers. And with us today is David, who is our operations launch manager. And this is actually the man in whose expertise we wanted very much to tap into today. And David, I will let you open the conversation now. Let me ask you the question. I know that you spent quite a few years in one of the larger Central Asian retailers working on their strategy. So those guys, I think, I remember, have over 25,000 stores, and you was part of their strategy team. And then, of course, with us, you have been all around the world implementing our technology into the different grocery retailers. And as I know, you as well spent quite some time in California, in sunny California. So I think you would have quite a unique experience and understanding of how the online grocery works. So let me ask you the question here. What is the online grocery? What are the models there? And I leave the floor to you for the moment. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for introduction. And look, it's an interesting question because I was asking myself the same one. I'm giving the lectures in the university sometimes, and when you're starting your lecture, you have to define the subject, and you have to define what is e-grocery. And when I'm trying to answer this question, I understand that e-grocery, it's something not as homogeneous as you can think about it, yeah, and how people usually think about it. Because when you say e-grocery in India, people think about delivery within, most likely they think about delivery within 15 minutes. When you say e-grocery somewhere in United States, in the middle part of the country, they think about the same or next day delivery of the big sized orders. Usually when you ask people in Europe or in big cities in United States, they will answer that the e-grocery is something about the ordering within and getting orders within 1-2 hours. So as far as I can concern, e-grocery as of now is a umbrella term for 3 main models which are represented here, and each one have its specifics. So that's would be my answer, and we can go and I'll talk a little bit more about each one. But before that, I'd like to ask about your experience, because you are traveling quite long time in quite different places, and maybe you have a different or similar view on this.
Yeah, I think everyone actually means something different under the e-grocery, and I think it's very, very useful to split the models and they really differentiate them in between each other, because it is important for the execution of the model, for the successful execution, and for targeting of your audience, and also in understanding the market. And I think that in some countries, the heavier models prevail, in the other ones, the lighter models, or the faster delivery models, they have a much higher chance of succeeding. And there are quite a few factors in there, like cost of labor, like the average basket, and the population, and as well as the penetration of the modern retail. Those are the factors which are determining the profitability and the success of the model. And I must say that I'm, of course, very much fascinated with India. It seems like this country is skipping the e-grocery and the in-slot delivery model altogether, going straight into the quick commerce, into the faster delivery. And it seems like eventually they will be able to deliver even the much larger baskets rather fast. Probably not like the biggest baskets, and I think we're going to cover that further down in our presentation. But that country fascinates me a lot in terms of the speed of how fast the online groceries developing there. Yeah, and I think let's probably move to the next slide. Where we have some parameters of the various countries, comparing them to each other in terms of the online grocery and what happens there. So I think here one of the ways to categorize the countries is like what is the amount of what is the split between the bigger purchases, the small medium-sized purchases, and the smaller purchases, sort of urgent need purchases. This is like a very interesting graph. David, what can you say about this? Is that essentially the graph about the demand, and does that determine the model, the online grocery model, which is more suitable for the specific country, or what else can we draw from this statistics?
Look, that's I like this graph because most I like this graph because of one thing. If you look at the dark gray part, you will see that there is a thing that is quite similar for any country represented here, and there are way more countries that have the same situation, where they have the regular purchase as a core part of a grocery in each country. And that's the interesting thing, that this is stable, and the big purchase and urgent need, they can vary, but not the middle part. But we will talk about this is a little bit cliffhanger. We will talk about why so in the next slides. I just want to stress it now, and we will go back to this a little after. So what about the differences? And what we can see here, I would say that on established e-grocery markets, where the sector has been developing for a while, we see a strong players and well-formed offer for big purchase mission. It started maybe 20 years ago in United Kingdom, in United States. And we know this, for example, players Walmart and Fresh Direct in United States, and Ocado in the United Kingdom. However, in newer markets like India, such offers were not particularly strong initially, and e-grocery development coincided with the beginning of the QCOM era. So India's the development of the e-grocery in India reached the peak during the last 4 years, where QCOM already was quite established business and gaining a lot of venture money. So we can see that when you starting developing something in 2020s, you are going in QCOM direction. But that's the one point of view when you're looking at established models versus the new models. And before I go further and reveal idea about the socioeconomic and geographical parameters that determine the dominance of the specific model, I want to ask you, Evgeny, what you think. That's as for me, I'm not sure in the previous point as much as I want to be sure in it, but interesting to hear what you think. Why, for example, India can develop Q-commerce, and for example, United States quite with a quite affluent population in the big cities, they not adopting Q-commerce as much as India.
Yeah, there are a few factors in that. One is the factor of the penetration of modern trade, of modern retail. This is interesting factor because you would think that modern retailers are supposed to be more modern and adopt the new technologies faster. However, it is not always the case because the retailers are usually the big organizations, because the grocery retail specifically works much better on a large scale. And they happen to be very cumbersome and very slow in adopting the technology and changing the ways how they function. And that's really the revolution. The penetration of the modern retail in India is less than 20, less than 17% as per the latest analytical data. And meaning that the market is comprised mostly from the smaller guys, leaving the opportunity for the agile companies to provide the new services, right? So the new things can emerge there much faster. And that also determines why there is so much venture capital going there, which is also an interesting factor. Usually the grocery retail is the playground for the private equity or for the late stage investors. However, this whole revolution of the online grocery is attracting venture capitalists in such a conservative industry. The grocery retail, where and rightly so, it's one in the lifetime opportunity where you can experience exponential growth in this sector. I mean, of course, grocery retailers, when the inflection point is reached and they start to open in the stores and modern retail grows, they grow pretty fast. However, not as fast as the online grocery can grow, and that what attracts venture capitalists into this model. Now, coming back to the original question, so one of the factors is the penetration of modern retail. The other very important factor is the cost of labor. The next one would be the average basket, which is very much determined by the income level of population and quite a few other factors. But the average basket is important for the online delivery. Because in every order you would have the cost of delivery, and that cost needs to be paid off by the however much margin you have in this basket. And the fourth factor is essentially the profitability of the grocery world, which is to a large extent determined by the maturity of the market and the structure of the supply chain. Very fragmented supply chain oftentimes, and also governmental regulations, oftentimes results in the very low margins on groceries, and very little proportion of the high value added products in the average baskets and the commodity products and the kind of the products which are the basics of the diet of the people who cannot afford the gourmet products. Those assortments, they tend to be cheaper with a lower margin, like rice, potatoes, and the staples foods, as we call them. So the margins are lower. So with low margin, it is very hard to fit in the cost of delivery inside the basket, which results into the quite challenging or tight unit economics, which makes the model makes it very hard to make the model profitable. So the four factors which I would name, just to recap there, is the penetration of modern retail, the cost of labor, the average basket, and the profitability of the grocery retail, which is determined by the supply chain to the large extent. And well, taking these factors into consideration, I think we can actually now see why Indian online grocery is growing so fast, and as per the latest analytical report, seems to be reaching the profitability point. David, would you agree that those are the main factors in which determine the uh, pace of penetration of online grocery, or would you name some other factors in this?
I definitely agree that these four are playing a role, and a substantial one. But before I start to adding something or talking about also constraints of the models, I'd like to address this question also to our guests, and if somebody has an idea why this happening this way, and why, for example, one country's United States having so developed a big purchase mission, and for example, Europe has no urgent need as developed as, for example, United Kingdom. Please write it into comments, and we will check what do you think about this. And as for me, I'd like to add some observations, because for example, for market in Europe, we see very slow growth, not only in urgent delivery, but in every type of delivery and e-commerce, because requirements, legislative requirements for delivery workers are classified in Europe. The workers should be classified in Europe as full-time employees rather than gig workers. And this led to high cost for order assembly and delivery, making it difficult to be profitable even at scale, even at very good big scale. And additionally, you have the restrictive, you have in biggest European city, for example, in Amsterdam, in Barcelona, you have restrictive measures on opening dark stores in residential areas. That's making the economy of quick delivery totally unviable. And as far as we're talking about the traps in the grocery, it's a very important thing to think about, not only in about the business risk and consumer related risk, but also bear in mind that the government usually have the appetite to squeeze your margin, and that's the obvious idea. They want to do it more convenient and well-paid job for people, but still they can kill the industry while trying to do this. And as a absolutely counter example, where is India, where large cities have a significant number of affluent households. That's about over 30 million, which 14 million household with income above $15,000. And they also have a large supply of you can say moderate cheap and labor cost, and high population density. And this brings to the quick delivery to the summit, and they now gathering about 1,500 orders a day per dark store, which is just about 3 times more than you can do in some developed European or United States cities, countries. So that's the things I was thinking about. The first thing is to be aware of government and their plans towards work labor restrictions. Then you have to think about whether in your country there are quite affluent population, and that's the interesting thing, because your country overall can be with the low income level, but if you split it in the parts, you can notice then in your biggest cities, you have very much people who are earning enough to start your grocery business and offer them goods with high margins. And this is the India's situation. And what is interesting also, if you look at the United Kingdom, which is definitely the place with a big share of high income population, high workforce cost, and high overall income penetration, we seeing how it going not as well as maybe 5 years ago. We seeing Getir in quitting the market, for example, and ceasing their quick-com operations. So it's not always, what are you talking about, that if you have a people which have money and which have opportunity to buy in the highly marginal segments of the market, it's not always means that this market will grow. So and we have the totally standing in the side case of the United States, where you have the diverse geography, large mega cities and sprawling suburbs, which are quite different. And many states consist mainly of the single floor buildings spread all over large areas. And most households can store large quantities of the goods at home, and they prefer buying in bulk, and they are going to the big purchase, in spite of the fact that they have people with a high income, they living in a densely populated area also, but you have the urgent need less than 10% of the whole market. So answering in a way your question is definitely the four you mentioned, but when you're thinking about entering market, you better not just look on the opportunities and the markers of the growth, but think about constraints and think about what kind of layers in your country you have. You can have the big cities, large sprawl areas, and you can have something in between. And think about you, as far as I can concern, you should think that each layer should have his pattern of consumption and think about the layers of the population, not overall country.
That's very interesting how you structure this, and I think that brings us to the next slide, and the next subject is that what are the various customer missions, which and which layers of the population, which of your audience are have more inclination to go for which customer missions, and then how to meet them there. But before we go in there, I would ask a question. Our audience, I can see that we have also people from Saudi Arabia, and I can see that there are guys who also from the delivery business there. And if you can post in the comments, in Saudi Arabia is a very high income country. Also, I think would be somewhat similar to US in the sense that outside of the main cities, and even in the main cities, quite a lot of population are living in the low-rise buildings rather than high-rises. So the density of the population is probably, well, much lower than in the metro cities in India, for example, or in some megapolises of America. So I'm curious to hear from those in Saudi. Who do you think is your audience, and how would you say which customer mission you are actually satisfying? Is that you are working towards the regular purchases, or are you more into the big purchases? And who are those people who you guys are serving there in Saudi? And if you can post in the comments, that would be very interesting to hear. We also have a comment from Hemant. I'm not sure where Hemant is from, but the question, well, the comment says, that in metro cities, the workday schedules are long and tight, and the result, more people are now opting for the e-groceries, especially the quick commerce. I assume that that comment relates to India, as the bigger cities there are oftentimes called metro cities, and yeah, definitely that is the case. We can see that the quick commerce is growing really, really faster in metro cities. But that's the question which I think we need to answer maybe on one of the following slides, whether quick commerce and fast online grocery delivery and essentially the coverage of the urgent need is going to grow in the smaller cities and in the villages. Okay, yeah, Hemant here is commenting that he's coming from Mumbai, which definitely is a very densely populated city with the massive need for urgent delivery. But I'm very curious to hear the opinion of the audience, whether you think that quick grocery delivery is going to be required in the smaller cities and outside, and if we talk about India, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and if we talk about America, just in their say suburban areas, if the quick grocery is going to be required there, if the 15 to 20 to maybe 30, maybe 40-minute delivery is required there and has the future. So I switch the slides now, and I hand it over to David, and of course that if you want to voice the opinion of what you think on the previous question, we'll be curious to hear you on this subject as well. So do you think that the quick commerce is going to grow in the smaller cities, in the villages and tier 2 and 3 cities?
I think that's it might happen, but not in the near future. Maybe in 5 years, when the main markets, the biggest cities, will be saturated enough to start squeezing margins from the not as populated areas as cities are. And before that, I don't think that the major players will do it. Maybe some players who will think that the big cities already a red ocean, and they decide to start their business based on the CVP for areas where the big players are not represented. Maybe it can work, but still they will need way too venture money, way more than their competitors in the big cities. So, and I don't think that there will be a lot venture capitalists that who will like to invest their money in the less marginal segment with quite high risk and very extremely postponed opportunity to get this money back. So I think it will work, but it will work just after saturating current markets, maybe in 5 years.
Very interesting, very interesting. I think I would personally, to some extent, agree. However, not in the case of the emerging economies, and like as I've seen witnessed with my own eyes, some of the dark stores and gray stores are growing to 3, 4, 5, sometimes 600 orders per day within the span of 3 months, which is a rather fast pace of growth of the dark stores. We are yet to understand why exactly are they growing so fast in those cities. Could be the lack of the penetration of modern retail, and could be the reason that those dark stores and gray stores of the modern retailers are actually offering a better assortment than whatever is available in the region, and even fraction of the cost of delivery there, they probably are still appealing compared to Kirana stores in those places. However, I think what you are saying very much makes sense for the developed countries.
Evgeny,
Yeah.
I would add that if you look at this table, you will see that urgent need has the potential of shelf picking, and this can be a way of doing the quick delivery in suburban area or some small cities. If you have dense landscape of the stores, and your customers have a propensity to pay for additional value-added services, for example, delivery, you can cover, you can open for yourself, for your company, the new, not heavily populated places. So maybe we will see how the retailers with widespread retail chain can afford it. And let's talk about this more in overall. We remember that there is almost always 30-40% core of e-grocery purchase. It's about the regular purchase. It's 30-40% almost in every country we saw in the previous slide. And this is partly explained by most people are used to shopping for such regularity, with many basic items having a shelf life 1-3 days. And what is the other great thing? It's that different types, almost all types of infrastructure suit this core operationality. So for example, you cannot always collect 20 items or 20 item orders in a small dark store. Yeah, you can see that if you always collect the big orders in small dark store, your assortments runs out quickly and orders are heavy and difficult to batch. And you can make this as good as for small orders. Yeah, that's the small dark stores. It's let's start from the other side. There are models that you almost can reveal without certain infrastructure, and if you want urgent need, you will start develop dark stores or very dense network of stores near consumption points. That's the first idea that was mentioned. And the second idea, if you want to fulfill the mission of the big purchases, you will need something big which can encompass a lot of assortment and a lot of orders. So it's the hypermarket shelf picking, it's distribution centers and micro fulfillment centers or mid dark stores. And the big purchase is only works in that case. And but there are I know you usually have the other opinion that there are way to order to make the big purchase maybe in the smaller stores or smaller dark stores, and as well maybe in a way to make the big purchase quicker. And I'd like to hear from you what you think. Do you see any examples and or ideas how we can start to deliver bigger orders faster, and to deliver more assortment from smaller infrastructure? And as
Yeah.
well, as we have more than 20 participants here, maybe people living in some places where we have not been yet see something like this and can share with us.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that we can. There is like some balance there. Of course, you cannot pick pack from the assortment of 10,000 SKU as fast as you can pick pack from the store, which would have 2,500 to 3,000 SKUs. However, what can be done with the modern tools is that some of the more high turnover assortment can be stored in the dedicated area, while the rest of the assortment can be spread over the rest of the dark store or MFC, however you call it, or mid-size dark store. This way, enabling the most of the orders to be pick-packed really fast, and some of the orders to be pick-packed slower. And we actually do have this in one of our dark stores. We do have this in operation where we, in fact, serve two different even brands from the same facility. So we have the facility which stores over 10,000 SKUs, and we have our quick delivery, more pricier brand with more of a gourmet assortment delivered from this facility, as well as that we have our sort of mid-range brand being delivered from exactly the same facility, where we have slightly different prices and much wider assortment. And that other brand we do deliver slower, and we do have lower prices there. Customers don't know that it's the same facility, but when I'm saying that the mid-range brand and the higher assortment, wider assortment is delivered slower, I don't mean that it's delivered really slow. I'm saying that it's delivered in under 45 minutes rather than 15. And if we really look into the customer value proposition of the grocery retail, I believe that it consists of the three main things, which is the assortment, the price, and the time or the convenience, however you call it, right? And the combination of these three things actually determines your customer appeal. So the bigger dark store might lose a little bit in convenience and the speed. However, it will win in terms of the assortment and possibly in terms of the price. It was very hard to assign the weight to each of these factors in the customer's decision-making process. But if we assumed that all these three factors, they weight the same when the customer is making the decision, then when we are talking about the speed, delivery in slot is anywhere, say, 6 hours to 12 hours from the moment when the customer places the order, while instant delivery is, or rapid delivery is 15 minutes to, say, 45 minutes. And this specific factor means that the factor of convenience or the factor of speed in the case of delivering within the same hour is improved 6 times. 6-fold improvement, which is a massive change in the value proposition. You can improve your prices by certain percentage points. You can improve your assortment by a few thousand SKUs, and it would be meaningful. However, is it the improvement by the factor of 5 or 6 or 7? Is it that dramatic? It is important, but with the modern technology, we have such a big improvement of this factor of the convenience and of the speed. So I think that 45 minutes to 1 hour delivery still represents a massive improvement from the delivery in slot and from the delivery or from going by yourself without actually ordering the delivery. It's still a massive improvement in convenience. And I think this format is going to grow, and I can see that some of the bigger guys like Amazon and Walmart, they seem to believe into that to some extent, and they are actually aiming to deliver the assortments of anywhere from 7 to 10,000 SKUs within 1 hour. And that seems to be what they believe is the golden middle, if we can say, of the online grocery and where the major share of the revenue is going to be coming from. We have a very interesting comment here from Robert, who of Nana, who is head of Hyper, there in the comments, and I really wanted to voice it in the in our webinar. So what he is saying that he can see that good indicator is the GMV from the cash order, which is decreasing from the overall GMV share in favor of the online payments. So, which is a very, very interesting factor. So it seems like in Saudi, so it means that probably in Saudi, some of the orders are some of the big part of the audience who actually didn't have the cards and online methods of payment, which could be more like an affluent part of the audience. So the share of these people is increasing. It could be obviously connected to the penetration of the increasing penetration of the methods of the online payment, but it could be also mean that their specific audience is going more towards the people with a higher level of income, or some the people who are, if we can say so, more advanced, technologically advanced, or maybe also more financially advanced. So I think they obviously have quite a lot of analytics, which they do determine in what kind of model they need to operate and what determines their model, which I think just highlights the point that every retailer, every successful retailer who we know, really put quite a lot of effort into finding out what is their target audience, what are their habits, which missions they cover, and whether they're actually geared to cater to that mission. Because it is not going to be easy exercise to adopt any of these models. So if you have the network of a few hundred stores, then it probably makes sense to use the gray stores, right? And if those stores are smaller ones, then it's going to be extremely hard to have few thousand SKUs assortment in those stores. It's not going to fit. So most probably with that, with those assets, you probably would be covering this area of customer need, and those are going to be the operational models which you will need to look at. And that we see successful grocery retailers, they utilize their assets to the best of their ability with the customer, with their target audience needs in mind. And here I wanted to ask David, because you obviously witnessed the emergence of e-grocery, exponential emergence of the e-grocery in Central Asia, while you were working in that massive retailer of over 25,000 stores. So which model did they use at the beginning, and which model they started to use later, and what were the results, especially the financial results of them adopting different models of the e-grocery? Can you share this experience with us?
Yep. And I'd like to. It's personally, I and the company where I was working, they like most shelf picking as the cheapest and fastest way to enter the market. Starting point for business to test your demand. However, that's the biggest problem. Retailers often face order quality issues with this model. Yeah, so when you're picking from the shelf, you usually have about 10 to 30% missing items, and you're potentially losing customers and receiving negative feedback. That's the very, very big problem, because if you have a quite developed market with with the competitors who rendering the perfect services. For example, retailers who were delivering from dark stores, they were giving our customers service 99.99% of order accuracy and delivery accuracy. When you're delivering from the shelf, you're giving your customer accuracy of 19% at best. But if you compare it with your competitors working based on dark stores, you will see or saw when we just started in 2020 that our economics of the shelf picking is way better. You can go profitable almost after getting 150 or 100 orders per store, you can also be profitable. Whereas when you're opening a small dark store or mid dark store, you have to render maybe 1,500 or 1,000 orders per day to get this profitability. So my personal favorite and the experience I have, you're starting from shelf picking, you're touching your demand, you're seeing where you're good and where you're bad, where you have the clients who can pay more for services, where you have clients who can put up with missing items, but they want the lowest price. And then you start playing in the game where, okay, we have the place, we will open the big dark store here, and we will supply these customers with a big purchase model, and they are ordering the big items in bulk, and they are ready to pay for it. Then you have the customers which want the lowest possible price, and you say, okay, we want to make it profitable, let's pick up from shelf, and sometimes we will miss customers, but we will give the best price. And then you see you have the customers they ready to pay for additional service, and you start delivering from the dark stores for them and getting the better service. So that's the not one way or one model approach. And if you look at the most developed retailers, for example, Walmart, Carrefour, Tesco in United Kingdom, you will see that they have offering almost in all missions, and they using almost all types of infrastructure, and the differences only where it more needed and where customers are ready to pay for additional services, or customers want to get the best price. And that was the story of the company I was working during 3 years. We were developing the idea that you don't choose, just try to adapt your strategy and your infrastructure to meet the customer's need.
That's very insightful, and I think that thank you very much, David, for sharing the real life experience. I think our audience would benefit from that at all. For me, definitely, that's a very interesting understanding how grocery retailers think. And
Evgeny,
I
thank
think
you, and thank Yango for these webinars, for the place where people can talk about e-grocery, can ask questions and share opinions, because my wife a little bit tired of conversation about e-grocery, and that's great that we have the other places to talk about it.
definitely, definitely, I know the pain. Yeah, all my friends and relatives are definitely tired of us talking about our favorite things, which is e-grocery. And Look, thank you, David, for sharing again, and thank you everyone in the audience for coming today to listen to this conversation. I hope you find it insightful. We run these webinars regularly. We also have regular events, in-person events all around the world, in Dubai, in Riyadh, in the various cities in India. And in Latin America, we attend events and we organize our own events. So where we talk about the e-grocery and everything related to those subjects. So I would really welcome everyone to keep track of what, as you can see from the slide, just skim through, we have plenty more to talk about, and really inviting everyone to join and to keep track of our LinkedIn page and our website for the events. And don't hesitate to reach out, to send a message, to text if you need anything, or if you just want to talk about the e-grocery. We're always open to do that. So thank you very much again to everyone who attended, and I'm looking forward to see everyone again. David, thank you again as well.
Thank you. Goodbye. Have a good day.